All right, so let's do some compression on a bus. So to get started, we need some sort of source material. I'm going to go to loops. I'm going to go to vocal. So that way we can all work off the same thing. And I found this Twilight Escape Vocals is actually like a pretty solid example of what we want to do. Now when I bring it in, it's going to ask me if I want to import the tempo information. Right now my session is at 120. The vocal tempo that I brought in is 140. So I'm going to import. I just want to make everything match up. And Logic's really cool about this. When I do this, now that Logic knows that this vocal's at 140, when I bring in delays and I say it to a quarter note, if I bring in a reverb, it's all going to match 140. Which makes things so much easier. So we're gonna stick with that for this example. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna audition the raw vocal. I think this sample has a little bit of reverb on it on its own. Yeah. But that's okay. So the signal from here, just to give you a flow diagram, we got this track. It's coming through here, and this is my fader for the output, right? Now, the signal flows this way. This is something that took me a minute to really kind of grasp, but think about like this like vertical line. The signal's coming through the EQ. If I click this EQ button, now we have an EQ. And if I add something else, it's going to come through there, and then it's going to hit the send. So everything that you do here is going to happen before the send. So I'm going to create a send to bus 1. We have 32 to work with. Actually, it looks like we have 256 to work with. I'm going to start with bus 1. I'm going to get rid of the EQ. We don't need that. And in fact, I'm going to actually take it off the track and say no plugin, just to not distract from what's really going on. So the signal is coming here, and then it's going to hit this bus, and then it's going to hit this fader. For my main vocal track. Now, a cool little trick here is we got this little fader for how much signal I'm sending to my auxiliary track over here. Logic automatically brought up my auxiliary track, and this is how much I want to send signal to it. I'm going to hold the Option key, click on this little dial, boop, now we're at 0. And so equal amounts are going out the main of this track, but then a little Y splitter is sending this to my bus, and it's coming out here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add effects to my bus. In this case, we're going to do a little bit of EQ. I think for this one, I don't know, let's do quarter note, see how that sounds. That's good, but it's a little sloppy. It's a little messy. It kind of messes up the, So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a compressor after this. And I will get into a deep dive with compression and all the different modes of Logic's compressors. But for now, we're going to stick with Platinum Digital. And we're only going to focus on these two knobs. I know there's a lot of stuff going on here. We really only need to worry about threshold and ratio. Threshold is the level of the signal that's coming through here, going out of here, going into here, and it hits the compressor. What level am I looking at? So we look down here, there's like these little tiny numbers. What's the level that the compressor is going to do something? I want the compressor to work like all the time. I want it to work hard. I'm expecting it to work hard for me, so I want to drop it down. And then the ratio is, okay, so the signal comes into the compressor. It triggers the threshold. Okay, so the signal is louder than negative 35 dB. How much is the compressor going to reduce the signal by? Right now, it's 2.1 to 1. What that means is that for every 1 decibel, it's going to reduce it by 2.1 decibels. I also want this to be aggressive, so I'm going to say around here. So for every 1 decibel that comes in over the threshold, the compressor is going to reduce this by 10 decibels. I want it to be aggressive. I want it to be, and you'll see this little meter fly when I do this now. So let's take a listen. So you can see how now, whenever the vocals hit, it hits the echo, and the compressor reacts. Now the problem is the compressor is also reacting to the echoes afterwards and during, and I wanted this to be a little bit more of a precise kind of thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a sidechain. And I know sidechain sounds scary, but it's actually not. What it really means is I'm going to say, hey, compressor, instead of listening to the signal that's coming here, I want you to ignore all this. And I want you to listen to the signal somewhere else. And so we go up here and I say, hey, sidechain, your source now is the Twilight Escape vocal track, which is my main track. So now instead of the compressor listening to things happening after the echo, the compressor is actually ignoring all that and it's only listening to things happening here. It's taking the signal that's coming out, we'll just pretend down here, instead of what's going up through here. And let's listen to the difference just with that little change. Now this is a very extreme example. You can hear that reverb or the echo is coming in real hot. But the idea is now the echoes itself aren't affecting the compressor. Now in some situations we could throw this right here and not have to mess with the sidechain. Have the compressor happen before the echo. But in my situation, I like to do some extra weird stuff sometimes with my echoes. You know, maybe I want to throw in an EQ and cut out a whole lot of lows and boost a lot of highs. Now again, that sounds pretty aggressive, but this is where we get to use this. Now maybe after my echo, I want to use a flanger. This is where we get to get really creative with our effects and not worry about it affecting a compressor. And this will also be another deep dive video, but we're kind of getting into gain staging and how effects stack into each other. Do I want to put my compressor before my EQ? Do I want to put my EQ before my compressor? You'll have to stay tuned to find out. But anyways, this is my first video, so let me know how I did and how many times I said Thanks for tuning in.